All right, so I grew up in New York City, and like most of us in this room, and I was a real church-going kid, and also one other person in this room still, but I was just like super straight edge, like all about the word, and just like really awkward with the girls. And I was always tall and skinny and lanky like I am today. And wore glasses as well, so I was really attractive. And so at one point when I was 17, I was senior in high school, and I was introduced to this girl who said she liked me. And we hung out a couple times at church. And so, it was like I was sitting over here and she was like all the way on the other side, like waving at each other while praising the Lord. So, in New York, there are these things called the Regents test. So that's like the statewide exams. And because I wore glasses and I'm a skinny, lanky fool, I didn't have to take any because I already passed on my Regents. Because I was a huge fucking nerd. Sorry, no cussing, sorry. And so during that week, I basically had it off. And I grew up with a single mom in the projects. And I had a younger sister. We were all Catholic school kids. And it was all chill, right? And so I had the nervous strength of saying, hey, you want to come over in the middle of the day? And she said, yeah. We didn't have texting back then. This was like all face-to-face on Sunday. So we had to set up our shit like a week in advance. So I'm like, yo, Tuesday, what are you doing on Tuesday? And so Tuesday, she shows up at my house, and my mom, for many other stories that I could tell, was not around. So I had, stop encouraging this random lady upstairs. So she came over and we were hanging out, and it was pretty early in the morning, so like Jesus time, like can't do anything in the morning. So we just basically watched basic cable TV. I grew up in the projects, no cable at that time, so just basic TV. So we basically watched the news and like Price is Right for a while, and we made out, and it was like I think like the third time I'd ever kissed anyone. And so I was really feeling it and like, oh, yeah. And so she started to take her clothes off, and I was like, I don't know, girl, this is not right. Jesus isn't here right now. And so she was like, yo, chill, it's cool. And then a couple of, I guess, hours later, like time escapes me because this is like the craziest time of my life. She and I just were watching, I think, Days of Our Lives, because it was the afternoon now. And so this starts happening again. And I'm like, you know what? I learned about this in high school, in my health class, with my male PE teacher who didn't know anything about health. And he gave us condoms, which I have in my drawer tucked away deep in a sock. I'm going to use them. This is what he talked about. He said, if you ever have sex, don't do it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do the exact opposite. So it's about it, yeah. So this starts happening. We start making out again, and I'm getting nervous. You can tell I'm getting nervous. I'm just like so ridiculous. This is exactly how I was feeling at the time. She starts to take my clothes off, which I'm like, wow, someone else is taking my clothes off. Wow, this is incredible. I'm a baby. And all of a sudden, we're naked, and I find these condoms, and I'm like, you know what, girl, we're doing this. I have this weird confidence, and all of a sudden, we start having sex, and it's about 10 seconds in, and I'm like, yo, you good? That's great. And she's like, no, we can keep going. That's great. And I'm like, all right, cool. And as soon as that thought comes in my head, I hear a phone ring. And as my teenage brain thinking, no one's home, I didn't see anybody all day, I hear my mom coming with the phone saying that my church parishioner is calling me to see if I'm coming to church that night. So she opens the door, and I look up, and I say, Mom, no! And she closes the door like immediately and starts cussing at me in Spanish, and I'm yelling at her in English. And the girls right here, like, what the fuck is happening right now? And I am just in a state of shock, and I didn't know what to do. And that action, that whole thing led to a time where I wasn't allowed to be in my home for a while. And it wasn't until a while after that that my mom and I reconciled about that, but she passed away 5 years ago. So there was so much resentment and so much issue with that I actually am glad that she caught me in that, because I wouldn't be able to tell a story like this and have the confidence to say that I lived through one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, and I'm able to share with a room full of people and random lady yelling at me. So thank you.